I never did a full-on Nutnfancy style tabletop review of the old Cold Steel AK-47 circa 2008 or so. The one you're looking at here. And by the way, this is the very well done Cold Steel catalog circa 2008. I did an initial tabletop review of this one. And TMPers who have been with a project for a while might be chuckling, because if you have, you probably remember the knife I used was busted. No joke. It was Mario's from Impact Guns, and he had that huge chunk taken out of the blade. Hilarious. And when I saw that, I was like, dude, I have got to do a review on that knife. That is manly. And he was still carrying it, still loved it. I took the opportunity to do kind of an impromptu review at Impact Guns on the aluminum version of the AK. Later on, my son and I, Tactical Doodle, went back to Impact Guns, as we often do, and checked some things out. And we met Mike there, and we talked about his AK-47s that he has. I'm talking, of course, the knives. He had the G10 version. Checked it out then. He'd replaced his Grivory pommel with a steel one. Cool mod. I like that, and a lot of guys did that. Some guys will say, well, why didn't you ever do a full-on tabletop? I mean, I had a lot of exposure. Of course, I could have got one very easily. The truth is, I just had a hard time warming up to it. There's a couple things about it that I just didn't dig, and I generally focus in the Nutnfancy project on knives I dig. I don't have time to review a lot of stuff I don't, because why? It's just kind of a wasted time, wasted effort. Not that I'll always do that. Once in a while I will, but not usually. So I did do that initial one, so that was fun. The things I don't like, and guys are saying, what do you don't like about it? I did like the broad clip blade about it. I said that, I think. The thumb plate, all the things I want to talk about in the TPs, as you know it. A lot of wiggle in the Ultralock. Every model I've seen that had a lot of use on it wiggled a lot, side to side, up and down. The aluminum AK was really bad, as I remember. I asked Mario about if he tried to tighten the pivot point, and I forget what he said. I think the video's floating out there somewhere when I talk about it. Didn't dig it. The price was okay. I thought a little bit elevated for what you were getting, to be honest. And I did not like the weight. The aluminum version, 7.6 ounces. And then the G10 version, more expensive, as you can see, 105 list price, 6.6 ounces. You know, I didn't dig it. For such a small blade, what's the blade length? 3.5 inches? No, thank you. Not interested. I shouldn't say totally not interested. I did the initial tabletop, and I pretty much called it good. Okay? That was then. This is now. Fast forward to 2010. Now Cold Steel has some revised versions of the AK-47. Let's talk about Big Brother first. The large AK-47. Man, that came out fast. How about Little Brother? Yeah, it's a 2-for-1 Nutnfancy special. 2 knives in one video. Big AK-47, little AK-47, and yes, it's going to be a full-blown Nutnfancy tabletop review. Why? Because I dig them. I'm excited about these blades. These are the AK blades that I would have loved to had 2 years ago. And I mentioned things along those lines maybe in that AK-47 initial review, and I will tell you in plenty of other knife reviews talking about weight. Oh no, Nutnfancy weight issue. Weight is very important. You're carrying a huge tactical load, or as we've been doing lately, trucking up some very high mountains backpacking. You're going to learn real quick that if you do not pay attention to weight, that your LCB is going to give out on you, and you're going to have to be ditching gear along wherever you are, the mountains, the trail, the desert. Take it from me, man, weight counts. Now again, it depends on your situation. If it's EDC, you know, whatever, 3 ounces isn't going to hurt you, I know. But if you can give me a knife that has this capability, now weighing 5.4 ounces, oh yeah, or 2.8 ounces, thank you very much. I am excited, and this drives to the talking point of handle, material, and design. In a lot of my reviews, as I've said throughout the years now, yeah, I guess it's been years, I've harped on the issue of steel liners, and in some cases I feel they're unnecessary. Taking heat for it. Guys go, oh, come on, Nutnfancy, what's wrong with steel liners? I love mine. It just depends on the blade. Dudes, you know that. Some knives, like this old style Cold Steel Recon 1, previously reviewed in the Nutnfancy project, quite positively, I might add, wearing the Ultralock, has nested steel liners, non-skeletonized versions. Okay, and some guys just dig it. They like the heavy, the more solid feel of perhaps a steel-lined handle. Generally, and I say generally, I'm not one of those. I don't think it adds a heck of a lot of strength in realistic terms. What are realistic terms? Well, I think how most guys will employ their blades. I think a full 100% non-steel lined G10 handle like Andrew Demko has chosen for the new AK. By the way, Andrew, you did a great job on the redesign. Great job. Back to the handle, but I don't think it gives up anything in strength in realistic terms. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Andrew even says it's stronger than the steel line version was. And I don't know about the full aluminum handled older style AK, but dude, it's like a new knife. A totally new knife. Without those steel liners, I've been carrying this AK for many weeks now, and I forget it's in my pocket, and yet it has the same cutting performance, again, the same strength, I'll talk about that here in a sec, as the older AK-47. Stoked, absolutely stoked. POU, 2 blades, so we got 2 POUs to discuss, don't we? Let's first start off with one you usually don't hear me starting off with, collectible. An enjoyment blade, one that you just, one you just have, and it's your fondling blade, dude. You just dig it. You take it out, you deploy it, you wave it off your pocket, and you just enjoy it. Any knife can serve that purpose. It's absolutely cool. I love some of my closest friends, man. When we get together, you can talk blades for hours. I know, it's sick. It's demented. I don't know what to tell you. That's a POU. Tactical blade for the larger one. You can employ it in that role, no doubt. Quite deadly. For the smaller one, I'll say it's an EDC blade. Secondary POU. That it's one you carry on your person like all the time and have it with you. At 2.8 ounces, there's no reason why you shouldn't have a knife on you, right? Now, some guys, and again, I'm kind of jumping around talking points here, bear with me. Some guys say, well, 2.8 ounces, that's not your lightest EDC blade, Nutnfancy, that you've reviewed. Very astute, TMPer, you are correct. One of my faves is the 1.2 ounce SOG Flash 1. It still sets the agenda for lightweight, very small, rapid deploying EDC blades. Your mileage may vary. But 2.8 ounces is light enough these days for me that I forget I have it. And then when I do, I'm happy that I do have it. Could this really be a tactical blade? Yeah, I say yes. And let's jump ahead to talking points. A tactical blade is going to have some type of grip formula, according to me, Nutnfancy. Again, these are just my data points, my points of view. You may differ, and that's totally cool. The grip theme here is not really jimping, which is absent on the top spine. Oh no, Nutnfancy with jimping. But check out the handle. It totally envelops your hand. We've seen that before with like the Cold Steel Spartan, right? Another outstanding Demko design, right? Check it. Nice. It grips and you can really hold on to that. Secondarily, you have a non-lethal impact capability with now the 6061 aluminum pommel. No longer is it made of that Grivery. And some guys will say, God, I'm so glad because that Grivery, it busted on me, it did this and that. I never saw that personally, but I heard about it. Don't worry about it now. This is metal, dudes. Mic and impact. Dude, if you get one of these, you don't have to replace it. Unless guys just don't want aluminum. But dude, can you imagine getting smacked with that in the thigh? Bam! Dude's going down. I don't care how BA the guy thinks he is. If you get a good hit in someone's thigh with that, let's say your blade's closed. Again, I'm not Mr. Martial Artist here. I've done some DT training. And dude, ouch. You go somewhere else, yeah, it's going to be even worse. So a tactical blade, absolutely. I think the size is about right too. Have no issues with the size. I think it's nice. Steel blade shape. Let's jump right to blade shape because this is exciting for me. This is an improvement over the original AK. it goes up higher. It's still hollow ground, but I feel that it's a more shallow approach to the relief edge. And I will tell you, these suckers come razor sharp out of box. Razor sharp. And generally, give kudos where it's deserved. And I do that in TMP. I don't care where it comes from. Cold Steel gets it right when they sharpen their blades. It's rare, at least on these newer and higher quality blades, that I see any edge problems out of box. Still working that glacier injury, if you're wondering. Great job on the edge. Great job on the blade. It's got lots of belly. It's broad. It's sweeping. Some guys will say, yeah, it's all that Nutnfancy, but it's got a delicate tip. Yeah, I'll give you that. Generally, though, I don't mind the delicate tips in most of my blades. Again, that kind of drives to your POU, doesn't it? What are you intending to do with it? If you're going to be stabbing concrete walls, probably not great. But for most uses, a delicate tip, especially in the mini AK-47, where EDC tasks like splinter removal, package opening, maybe food preparation, digging out stuff, a nice, delicate, and sharp tip, I think is appropriate. There, let me see if that will focus. You see the mini AK tip? So I have no issues with it. Mini AK blade is just a shrunken version of the big one. Nice belly, hollow ground, and it just looks good too. I think the looks are more appealing to me than the older AK. The steel has not been changed. AUS 8, and I'm going to roll in a surprise for you guys you were not expecting here in a second. But I love the, actually it's AUS 8A. AUS 8A is what Cold Steel uses. It has good rust resistance. I will tell you from experience, using the Cold Steel formulation of this steel, good edge holding capability, and it's not impossible to resharpen. It is a good medium to medium high quality steel. Generally, I don't have any problems with it. AUS 8, AUS 8A will rust on you if it doesn't receive care, but pretty much any knife steel will, right? Speed still features the thumb plate, right? That you can wave off your pocket. I don't know if I ever posted the video, but check it out. There's Mike at Impact Guns waving the old style AK-47 off his pocket. And pretty easy to do. I think I said in some other reviews that thumb plate sometimes can go deep into the fabric and catch, and you might have to practice with it a little bit. But it does work, and more and more these days I'm really digging the waved deployment, whether it's from Spyderco, Emerson, in this case Cold Steel. And you can use it with thumb actuation. It helps if your hands are a little bit on the larger size to bring it out. Little mini AK-47, a little bit easier, obviously, because the radius is smaller. Pops out nicely. And how often do you see a wave feature on an EDC blade, especially in this price category? We'll talk about it in value. I got to rock. There's so much to talk about. Lockup. Now featuring, this is going to get interesting. Get ready. Now featuring the Triad lock by Demco. I've talked about it in a lot of other reviews. The American Lawman, I talked at length about it. Let's go back to the 2008, also in the current catalog, a representation of this lock mechanism. In a nutshell, I shouldn't say that, let me say in a Demco shell, it features a discontinuance between the locking bar and this blade spine. And the stopping pin comes between those two mechanical devices. And taking the weight in strikes. Okay, that's an oversimplification, I know. Andrew's probably going, wait dude, there's more to it than that. I know. Read the Cold Steel catalog if you want to know, but that's the bottom line, is this stop pin, which is mounted in the solid G10 handle now, that's it right there in the mini, there it is in the large, is taking the brunt of the force. When you hack with this blade, when you stab with it, chop with it. You know, if you're interested, go look at Cold Steel's and Andrew's testing of this blade and of his Triad lock mechanisms. There's some great videos out there, and I will tell you from my personal experience, those are not made up. I mean, those are real. What he's doing with those knives and the abuse that this Triad locking mechanism takes, it's real. How do I know that? Well, I mean, I watched the vids, and a long time ago I was going, yeah, those are cool, By the way, there's a picture of the Triad lock, Rottweiler. But how about we go out and abuse it and just try ourselves? I didn't do it with the AK-47. I sure as the heck did it with this knife, though. Check it. New style Recon 1 Tanto blade by Cold Steel. And dudes, I have to find out for myself. I've been preaching about it. Not preaching, but talking about the strength of the Triad mechanism. And I went out and I thumped this knife. I thumped it hard. Hard, baby. I took it out there and did some wood splitting with it, batoning the crap out of this thing. Why did I do that? Well, it's not because Demco or Cold Steel is making any claims that I think have to be proven. They're not saying that. They're not saying, hey, this is the ultimate survival knife. They do talk about the triad lock, how strong it is, and in my mind I go, huh, I wonder if it's strong as a fixed blade. We've been down that road before, haven't we? I know Demco probably remembers that because that was the Pocket Bushman fiasco in the Nutnfancy project, where I went out and wailed on that blade too, because it was being billed as a pocket survival knife. And I'm like, all right, well, if I'm in a survival situation, I need to split wood, build a shelter, let's test it. You know the rest of the story. It broke. I couldn't recommend it. Still don't. No offense. Let's try it with this. Huh? How did it do? What'd you say? How did it do? Well, look at it, dude. It passed with flying colors, I'll tell you that much. I mean, I wailed on this Recon 1. I granted this AK-47 review, but I wailed on this thing, man. I'm talking in hardwood, banging the tip, smacking it. It tweaked. I was actually had some flex in the blade going on. I'm like, dude, I've never seen a folding knife be able to take this type of abuse. Do you guys remember when I took the Carson? What was it, the M21 out there? You know, with the locks mechanism by CRK, our Columbia River Knife and Tool? That thing failed on me miserably. I posted a video on that. This one held up. So I'm telling you from first experience, and no, you're not going to see this very often in that Nutnfancy project, only when it serves a purpose. And the purpose it's serving here is very definitive, and I want you to understand that. It's not gratuitous. The purpose is what we see, at least from my experience, and again, this is my data point, from the triad locking mechanism in terms of strength, is a fixed blade. Okay, your mileage may vary. I have to give all those asterisks out there so guys don't get excited. A folding knife that's approaching fixed blade strength. If it wasn't, why didn't the lock fail? And after I was done, look at, and I mean, we thumped on this thing for half an hour. And look at the wiggle in it. There's a little bit up and down. You hear that? Very little. I did get some side-to-side movement, but it was easily tweaked and tightened with a pivot point. Dudes, I got to tell you, I came away very impressed. Very impressed. By the way, that's Teflon coating, and you can see what a half hour of hard woodwork is going to do to your Teflon coating. It's going to go bye-bye. It's just basically, for looks. It will reduce friction in some soft materials, but when you present it against a hardwood, this is what you can expect. And I can also tell you this, guys are going to see that, and they're going to see that bright steel come through, and they're going to go, that's an idea. I'm going to take my Teflon off my blade and polish it. You know what? I think that's a great idea. I think it looks sick. Polish that sucker up, mirror, and then your knife buddies, when they see it, they're like, hey, dude, you got your cold steel? Yeah, and they pop that out. It's like gleaming. They're freaking out. Dude, when did you do that? Just the other day. No big deal. It's just special, more special than yours. Hilarious. Flying colors, man. Good job, Cold Steel. Oh, and by the way, it's talking about the AUS 8 edge holding. This sucker still's got an edge on it, man. I'm not even kidding you. I don't have any paper here to cut. Trust me, though. I haven't touched it, and it could cut well. The tip withstood the smacking quite nicely. And again, the locking mechanism, flying colors, man. I can't say anything bad about it. Getting back to that stop pin. Transverse forces, reverse whacking. I don't care. Whatever it was, it held up. And I reversed it. I was smacking it here, too, because it got stuck in the wood. I'm smacking it and coming on down. Great job. Great job. I'll reference this when I do the new Recon 1 review. It's going to be very similar to this one. It's basically the same knife. 100% G10 handle. Told you I had a surprise for you. That's kind of exciting. G10 handle, we talked about it. Other elements of it is that since it doesn't have steel liners in it, dudes, easier to take apart, easier to service, to give maintenance to. There's your mini Torx. You can take it apart. And like I've said many times in all my reviews, it's good to be able to service your knife. This one doesn't, not having the stainless steel in there, not as much an issue. Oh, I got to tell you this. Actually, hang on. I was going to tell you this here when I get to clip design. Looking inside, you see the spring there? I have heard reports of a spring unseating in the triad locks. I have never seen that. And all the ones I've been using, and all the knives that feature it, the Black Rhino reviewed in TMP, I just haven't seen it. I sure didn't see it when I was thumping this sucker either. So to me, I'm not really worried about it. I don't think you should either. And if you were to experience something where the knife wouldn't close or open, you look down there and that spring's unseated and for whatever reason it's causing an interference, send it back to Cold Steel. I guarantee you they'll fix it. Guarantee you. But let's see, handle material, ergonomics I think we talked about. They're excellent. Reverse grip, if I didn't mention, also excellent. I didn't mention the thumb plate specifics. You can really get a grasp on that. You know, the longer reach notwithstanding. Okay, I probably forgot something on handle. Oh yeah, I did. It's aggressive G10, which I really dig. I've talked about it at length through the years on G10, which I like. This is the more aggressive kind, the kind that really gives you a purchase. Okay, so I think it's fabulous. The downside of it, using little mini AK, is that it is hard on your pockets. It shreds your pockets. Reference my Nutnfancy pocket clip modification to the Cold Steel AK-47. This one right here, JB Weld, baby, Krylon spray paint. Nope, no Duracoated needed here. And you can see it wears and tears just nice. Some guys say, well, Nutnfancy, why don't you just grind under the pocket clip? Dudes, I'm not going to grind under the pocket clip of my knife. It's going to make it retain, you know, less securely. It's going to look Bush League too. I want it to look sweet like this. TMPer did have a good point. He's like, well, Nutnfancy, I mean, you're saying it's too rough under the clip, but remember, it's ambidextrous. They can reverse the clip. So how does Cold Steel know which side they're going to use? Huh, good point. I forgot about that. True that, true that. So I'll just stick with my own mods. So Cold Steel, just keep rocking and rolling, whatever. Clip is improved over the older AK-47. It's solid now, which I much prefer over the split clip design of days gone by. And since it is ambidextrous, it is a curved handle. I think I have it in my pocket. You'll get another clip if you're a left-handed TMPer. You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Great job on the clip, and there's no weird issues that you have to worry about, like, you know, I call them Wizard of Oz issues. Goofiness issues. Durability. How's that for a summary? You know? I was telling you, I mean, those AKs I saw, the original AKs, and they were good knives, don't get me wrong. The original AKs that Andrew, you made, I thought they were good. They didn't crank my wheel. I was not impressed with the looseness of the Ultralock. And the Ultralock was a good locking mechanism, very similar to the Benchmade Axis lock. Under license, I understand. I don't know if they lost license. I think this is an improvement. The only disadvantage might be, well, now it's a two-handed closure, you know, versus the Ultralock, which could be a one-handed closure. But durability, I think, over the years is going to rock and roll, dudes. Rock and roll. Value. Let's see, AK-47 Mini. And by the way, I got to tell you, I love this knife. This Mini. My son, Last Suspect, and I, when we hiked in the snow, summer snow, backpacking series of vids, maybe I'll annotate them, maybe I won't. This was a knife he was carrying, and he absolutely loved it. And got good at waving it off his pocket. He's in love with the Mini AK. $50. One in the background, $65. Are there cheaper knives out there? Sure, there's cheaper knives. There's more expensive knives too. To me, that's kind of middle of the pack pricing. But I think value, and value is a lot more than money. If you've been watching me at Nutnfancy, you should know that. It's not just about money. It's quality. It's durability. It's ergonomics. It's speed, lockup, strength. All those things are rolled into the value formula. So don't get wrapped up about, well, yeah, I saved $1.28 on this knife. What's it matter if it lacks all those features? They have it. They have it all. I mean, I'm saying it's cool. They're a little bit thick. They're not super thin knives, but they're thinner, if I'm not mistaken, than the original, at least the big one, thinner than the original AK. And carrying it in the pocket, again, it comes down to being fairly unobtrusive. Cool factor, in the eyes of the beholder. It just depends on who you are, how you determine cool. You know, are these cool enough for you? Are they custom enough for you? First type of cool reigns usually for me. In other words, practicality, service and role. In the tactical role, I think the large size AK-47, very capable blade for all the reasons I've mentioned. In the EDC role, very capable blade. And if you ask me, it's cool in the EDC role. I mean, if I'm around one of you dudes, you know, we meet in a store or something somewhere and we're talking and you break out your mini AK and you're like, hey dude, this is my EDC, I'll be going, rock on. That's cool. It's not one you see every day. It's got a cool name. I like the name too. Great job. This is a great EDC blade. It's cool, ergonomic too. I didn't really talk about the mini so much. About a 3-finger, maybe a 4-finger hold. This is not a tactical blade, it's a utility blade. Works well, but it still has that aluminum pommel on it. It's just the larger AK put in a shrinking machine. I'm so glad to see manufacturers are responding to the weight issue that I've been harping on in the Nutnfancy project since, I don't know, 2008 or so. And harp away I do, because I think a lighter weight blade without sacrificing any strength, such as these AK-47s by Cold Steel, are going to attract a large and faithful following. Great job, Andrew. Great job, Cold Steel. Highly recommended. That is the Nutnfancy tabletop review of the Cold Steel AK-47 redesign. Out.